right, hey guys, back with some more questions. We got a question in. It's asking, do you have any tips for people in dating relationships who are trying to discern if a relationship is worth fighting for? Addressing working through challenges, issues, differences, etc. Or at the point of deciding, are they a good match for each other? And is it worth moving on or staying together? That's a great question. That can be a tricky thing to navigate because there's so many unknowns, it's hard to figure out a clear, concise answer. But some of these things I'm going to tell you today are going to help you hone in on a good way to find that answer and what to listen to and what to not listen to along the way. So number one, every relationship is going to have a little bit to a good amount of stuff you have to work on because it's two different people coming together trying to merge their lives with different perspectives, different beliefs, different truths. And it takes a little bit of talking, working through, understanding each other, and there can be little bumps along the way. It's easy for fears to pop up. It's easy to misunderstand. That's just part of relationship. And that there needs to be some room to expect that there should be some work going into it. But we're left with the question of, is this too much work? Is this too much work? And there's I always say this at our workshops, and just a friendly reminder, the amount of effort it takes to start a relationship is typically going to be the amount of effort it takes to maintain it. And there is an aspect of it needs to have a majority of peace and kindness and goodness and benefit and strength. It needs to be probably 80% that, and 20% you can deal with that. And that's still a wonderful marriage. It's 80-20. As my grandpa said, it's like, I like stuff, 80% of my marriage, 20% of it, I put up with some of it, and it's not my favorite, and he has a wonderful marriage. So there are three things I want to tell you to help consider about how to make that decision with all these dynamics going on. Number one, really think through the option of breaking up. Say you start to get into a relationship and things start to get more difficult. You get out of the infatuation stage, you get into reality, you get into the differences, you start talking about things and you realize this is not the person I thought it was. And just know that's actually a good thing. You're getting honest. You're not just staying delusional that this person is perfect and everything you dreamed of is going to agree with everything that you think and want and feel. So you're in a good place. You're actually getting into a real relationship where you can build a strong foundation that won't be shaken with things later on in life. And that's the goal. You don't want surprises when you get married. You want to go, no, we worked through this. I already know, and I've seen her walk this out already. I'm not the least amount of surprises after marriage is a good thing. So ask yourself, really think through and ask yourself, do I want to break up? Now, so many times when things get hard, we start to consider, is this worth it? Do I want to get out of this? We start to feel a tendency to want to run because there's some pain and there's discomfort. And but ask yourself, even with the pain and discomfort, I would also be missing out on all of the positive things. And it may be hard to think about the positive things, but there are. That's the reason why you're with that person, because there are positive things. Really consider both of those and think, how would I feel if I ended this and never got back together with this person? Would I feel sad? Would I feel like I didn't give it my all? Would I feel defeated? Would I miss them more? Those are real questions. And most of the time, we don't consider the positive things well. We really consider the negative things well. We want to run, we want to get out of it, but consider the positive things. So ask yourself, really think about, do I want to break up with this person? Am I ready to really accept a new stage of life without them? And that will help you get to a clearer answer, which is number two. You are the only one responsible for you finding your clear answer to this question. No matter how much you think you're not ready for or don't know how to do it, you still are the only one who can make a clear decision for your life of, is this a person I feel comfortable with to give my life, that I want to invest in, or that it's time for me to leave. You have to do the research. You have to get into the relationship, live life with them, do life with them, see it, assess if that's too much. Nobody else is going to do that for you. So once you accept I'm the one who has to figure that out, then all of a sudden you see being in it and experiencing it is valuable information instead of running. Now here's a side note. You are the one responsible for finding a clear yes or a clear no. And that oftentimes requires people to stay in till they get through their fears. And that means you're going to have fears pop up. And it's easy to have fears pop up and say, this person doesn't do life like me and there's something wrong with that. When in reality, there's nothing wrong with that. They just do life different than you. It scares you. But you don't call it fear. You say there's something wrong with them. You put your fear on blaming them and you don't see that it's actually just fear. And what you do is, what's easy to do, we can all do this so easily if we're not careful, is we feel that fear and we don't catch it as fear. We blame the other person. We say, I need to get out of this because they're the problem. They're making this difficult. We get out of it. We start a new relationship expecting none of the same issues to happen. And all of a sudden, they start popping back up. And because the other person wasn't the problem. We weren't dealing with our fears. That was the problem. It's going to follow you until you deal with your fears. And so when you are trying to make a decision of, do I want to be in this or not be in it? If you miscalculate, the problems are the other person. And when they're really you, that's not going to be good for you. That's going to follow you around. So to be able to find a clear yes and no, you got to be able to stay in past your fears. Till you start looking at your fears. You face them day in, day out, and it's scary and it's hard sometimes, but you start to gain ground. You're like, yeah, I used to be afraid of that. I'm not as much anymore. And then you can start seeing the relationship for what it really is. Okay, once you dealt with your fears, is there still issues remaining? Is it still, because you got to the heart of it, is it the mixture of us or is it me? And we are responsible for figuring that out. And it's really hard to recognize that it's you because you want it so badly not to be you. You don't want to own up to that because that means you're deficient. It means you're part of the problem. And you know what? If there's a relationship where two people aren't saying any of that language, where they can recognize where they are the problem, watch out. Because it's always two-sided and always two people need to work on their own stuff in order for a relationship to be healthy. Okay, I'd say this. Also, to help you find a good decision, consider this. Consider the rate of change. What that means is, say you've been in it for 6 months to a year, and things have been heavy the entire time. I would say, watch out. That's about what you're going to get, possibly for the rest of your life. The rate of change is not much change over time. Now, let's say you've been in it 6 months and it was really heavy for 6 months, and then you kind of kept working through stuff, and something just changed and broke, and you both became more gentle and started owning up on both of your own stuff. And all of a sudden, every month you start to feel another level of change, another level of change, another level of change. And you can start to project, wow, if I stay with this person and this is the way it's sustaining for the next 6 months, so you've been in it a year, first 6 months were really hard, the next 6 months we're growing. And it's getting easier and easier and good and strengthening, and you can see it. You start to see where it's going. And you can go, that feels good. I can see, that's kind of what I want. I want a relationship that goes like this, and it's doing it. It's got to that place. And that is a good thing, because sometimes we do just have to work through stuff and weed out the things. And once you get enough of that out of there, it can do this. It can progress and it can become a good thing. But it has to be sustained, and it has to be, giving it time is so good to see that it can sustain time over time. It can sustain that, because all these things require character. And those are costly choices for each person to remain in a state of developing character that can maintain that level of relationship. And so it's the rate of change that can really help you decide if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Notice, if it's not changing 6 months to a year, watch out. If it started to change at some point and it's steadily changing month after month, you might have something really good. You work through with somebody, and if you started another relationship, you would have had to start all over and work through stuff, but you got there with this person, and it's actually a good thing. Last thing that will help you, I do this. Even when a relationship is difficult and you're trying to answer the question, you feel like it could be the end. It might be good to be the end, but you're still not quite ready to make that decision. Then I would say this: stay 100% in it. Keep yourself in it. Either be in or out, and keep that as the gauge of I have to decide that. And I think sometimes people get into the pain and the difficulty, and they think that's the reason to run. But it really isn't. It's the answer to what's going on behind the pain. It's the answer to the mixture. There's times when the pain is you, and it's good to deal with it, and you're going to have to deal with that regardless of who you're with. And there's times when the pain is the mixture, or it's just not a healthy thing. But you staying in it and having the permission to go, I don't have to have it all figured out, but I'm the one who has to figure it out, and I'm going to stay connected to this instead of this temptation to run from the pain and be scared of the pain. Don't be afraid. Go and figure it out. You can do it. So stay in it. If you decide to end it, then end it. But if you don't, stay in it 100% until you can figure out a clear yes or no. So again, those 3 things is really think through breaking up. Don't just think of the negative things that you'd get it to be away from. Think of the positive things that you would lose. And ask yourself, is this really something I want to do? Then realize I am responsible for figuring out a clear answer. Nobody else will do it for me. I have to completely take on that responsibility, that task. And if I'm afraid, I'm only going to stunt my ability to figure out that task. So don't be afraid. Face your fears. Stay in it. And unless you find a clear no, stay in it 100%. Keep practicing what marriage would be like to see what you really think about it. And it'll give you so much good information. Last note, be an observer. Be an observer. Don't let your emotions get too invested, but learn to live life and observe what's going on. And have a little bit of disconnection in the sense of, I am not here just to get all my needs met. I'm prioritizing. I'm wanting to make a wise decision. And seeing the mixture, how we do things together, that is wisdom, to look at that over just, am I completely happy, or am I completely fulfilled? Are all my desires being met? It's like, no, life is much more dynamic than that. A few other notes. Work on your problems more than working on your partner. Even if they have lots of problems to deal with, work on your problems more than your partner. It'll keep you in a good place. This will help you get to clarity. Also, keep healthy sexual boundaries. Purity equals clarity. If you keep those things out of the mix, you won't have to weed through these powerful emotions that are extremely confusing when you're trying to see the truth of connection, because it just involves chemical connection that just is so closely feels like relational connection. And you can feel closer to someone, and then you get married, and all of a sudden you realize, I'm really not that close to this person. I really don't like how they do life. It costs you clarity. Keep good sexual boundaries. Keep good relational boundaries with like people who are controlling, or who aren't open, or who aren't honest. Keep these values, keep standards of these values in the relationship. Ask for them to be there, to be honest, to be open, to set boundaries when you feel controlled. Because it's not worth it to try to work through things with somebody who's abusive or controlling, or doesn't give you freedom, or doesn't share or open up. It's futile. They don't have a character already operating in their life that's going to be good to join your life with them for all the things that are required in marriage. So those are some good things to think about when you are trying to decide if this is the right person. So I hope that helps, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye. Have a good day.